I try to tell people the story, people disregard it as some twisted fanfiction or something. There's nowhere I can put this disturbing account. Oh, great. Oh, no. We'll be taken seriously. So I decided to put it on a Creepypasta page instead of alerting the authorities to what I saw, because that makes sense. But it's all about a bizarre episode that only I seem to see of the show.
Oh, gosh dang.
RWBY is one of the most recognized anime web series ever. I didn't find out about the show until they put the first 2 seasons on Netflix. What?
What? Samuel.
I fell in love with the show immediately after watching it. Same here. I will admit the animation in the first few episodes. Yo, is this man me? Did I write this? Because the first few episodes were lacking. But I didn't really mind because the story, characters, action, and so forth were all good. Unfortunately, due to the death of the series creator Monty Oum, the 3rd season was postponed. All RWBY fans, including myself, were deeply saddened by the loss and waited a very long time for the show's eventual return. One day in early 2015, I thought it had finally happened. I was on YouTube when I saw a video from Rooster Teeth in my subscription box. I heard rumors that Rooster Teeth were planning on making the 3rd season darker, which they did. So I thought the title was a sure sign that the rumors were true. The video's thumbnail was a picture of Yang looking very angry and having blood running down her forehead. Okay then. That's... okay. Oh, alright then. So you clicked on it? Like she was fighting a deadly battle with a dangerous opponent. Enthusiastically, I clicked on the screen, went full screen, and waited to be entertained. Oh, but poor Tom, you will not be entertained. The episode started with the standard Rooster Teeth opening and then cut to black. It then played what I assumed would be the new opening sequence, which consisted of RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang walking side by side down a hallway in Beacon. The music came up. It was different from the other openings, which were fast and epic. This one had a slow and more melancholy tone. It had the usual singer, Casey Lee Williams, or at least it sounded like her, singing a sad song about how one death could impact the lives of so many. Upon hearing it, I assumed it was pay homage, or possibly a hint that a major character was going to die in the 3rd season. As the opening continued, the hallway became darker and darker. Eventually, Yang faded away. This repeated itself with Blake and then Weiss, the hall growing darker the whole time, when it was just RWBY left. Oh, shit. Okay, so RWBY continued to walk alone until she stopped, got on her knees, and started sobbing. Then everything... Then everything cut to black. Then, of course, the actual episode started. It showed Beacon on a rainy day. The point of view started outside the school, then traveled through the front doors. It traveled through the halls and the staircase of the school. The whole scene was one continuous shot until it finally reached Team RWBY's room. I don't like where this is going. The scene then cut to RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang in the room. It was only then that I realized how poor the animation was. It looked like the first couple of episodes, but worse. The lighting didn't seem right, and the character motion seemed stilted and restrained. RWBY was seating on the edge of the bed, with her face in her hands. Weiss was staring gloomily out the window, and Blake was curled up in the fetal position. Yang was in the center of the room trying to cheer the girls up. There was some pretty clunky exposition. Each of them revealed why they were so depressed. RWBY explained that someone had desecrated her mother's grave. Oh, nice! We're going that approach. Okay, that's nice. Okay. Okay, so they dug the corpse up and threw it in a nearby tree. Then they vandalized the headstone with spray paint permanent marker. Authorities said they found a large sum of cigarette butts, beer cans, and condom wrappers around and in the grave. RWBY said that she felt disgusted that someone would do such a thing and was saddened because of it. She also hinted that she suspected Roman. I thought it was pretty dark. Weiss revealed that the Schnee Dust Company had suffered an attack from the... Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so you're more concerned about your stupid dust company that you're going to inherit. Okay.
Continue reading.
I'm kidding. Teresa killed her employee, some employees and her father. Yeah. Blake was obviously disturbed by Weiss's story. Okay. I'm sorry. That can't be the end of that. Blake cannot be depressed because of that. Anyway. She said that the group's leader, her ex-friend Adam, had challenged her to a mono fight to the death. The rest of the girls were caught off guard by this statement. They questioned her and trying to encourage her not to accept. Blake then yelled that she had already accepted and was going to fight him sometime alone later. They needn't worry about her. Yang was clearly saddened by the others' reports. However, in her typical optimistic fashion, she told them that they could get through these hardships and continue along. Then, much to my surprise, Ruby, Weiss, and Blake began yelling at you. What? So they screamed about how everything was terrible and there was no hope. What really shocked me is that they started shouting some very strong...
Wait, what? Say that again?
They started shouting some very strong profanities. You can't use the word profanities and expect to be taken seriously.
What's your profanity?
And poor Yang. The show had language before, but only minor stuff. Now they were saying the F word, the S word. They called her terrible names and told her to get out, even threatening her if she didn't comply. Yang, noticeably terrified, started weeping as she ran out of the room and slammed the door behind her. The scene then made a jump cut to Team Juniper. No. Why do we have to go to Juniper, bruh? Nah, okay, look, if Ren does some crazy stuff to Nora, it's over. I'm stopping reading this. It's not happening. Anyway, only Pyrrha and John were in the room. Nora and Ren were elsewhere out of sight. Pyrrha seemed frustrated with John. Oh no. Telling him he needs to learn his aura. Oh, you're a jerk for that. You're okay. Okay. You're a jerk for that.
I guess worse.
She was not calm and kind to him like she usually was. This time she came across as bitter and fed up with his constant failures. John kept trying to defend himself, commenting about how his aura probably isn't important, or isn't too important anyway. It didn't help Nora and Ren. I immediately understood the implication that the two had died. What? I immediately understood the implication that the two had died, presumably in battle. When John mentioned his lost teammates, Pyrrha got upset and dropped her head. She whimpered something inaudible, and John gets up and approaches her. He apologizes and the two hug, and then the scene quickly fades into black. I like that. Oh no. Okay, so there was a quick flash of something in the blackness, but I did not see what it was. I assume now that it was some kind of message or image, but I couldn't be sure. The next scene fades in on Yang walking crying through the halls of Beacon. Sad, but perfectly fine. There is a total absence of students and teachers. Nope. We're not doing this again. We're not doing the absence of students and teachers again. Okay, we did that in the last one I just read. We're not doing it. Okay, only Yang seems to be there. There is also total silence except for Yang's sobs. I guess, she's gonna go out with a bang. She walks outside the school and suddenly knocked over by a blast of fire. Okay then. And sees Cinder walking out of the flames. She immediately activates her Ember Celica? I guess that's the name of her weapons. Did not know that.
Ember Celica, yeah.
Getting ready to fight. I found this really confusing because the show left off with Cinder infiltrating Beacon. Posing as a student. When did Cinder end that plan, and when did Yang recognize her as a threat? Well, I mean, when she got a fireball shot at her. I mean, come on, bro. It's not that difficult. The two began to fight in what I will admit to be a pretty cool action scene, but neither of them seemed to really want to fight. Their movements looked restrained and half-hearted, and they rarely hit each other. That, and there was no dialogue outside of Yang's occasional grunt or oof! Freaking oof!
Really?
Anyway, Cinder managed to hit Yang in the head with a fireball, and Yang fell backwards. She hit her head on the ground, and a loud and very realistic crack was heard. She slowly got up with blood running down her forehead, in parentheses, the thumbnail for the video. Thank God for the scene change. Without warning, the scene jump cut, yet again, this time to Blake walked in the woods. Anyway, so she walked through the woods, that had appeared in the black trailer, by a black trailer being her trailer.
Yeah.
The one with the red trees. She walked into the clearing. On the other side was Adam, holding his weapons Wilt and Blood. What the fuck? Again, I was confused because Adam's weapon names are just freaking terrible. No, I'm kidding. Because Adam hadn't appeared in the actual show until at least the last episode of season 2, and now he was fighting Blake. It seemed like I had missed something. Blake pulled out her weapon that I don't feel like pronouncing, and then the two immediately began fighting. Unlike the last fight scene, which is very cool but underwhelming, this one was very slow and quiet. Their weapons didn't even clang as they hit each other. Then the screen started flashing white and gave everybody epilepsy. I'm kidding. It continued until the video cut out completely. A message of white letters on the black background appeared, and my skin just crawled again. When God dies, so does the universe he created. It chills, bruh. After the message, when God dies, so does the universe he created. Then the ad in the middle of the video began to play.
Yeah, I read that.
It was for Chili's, if you're wondering. It was during the ad that I finally started getting to get creeped out. I would be creeped out before the ad, and then the ad would be like, oh, thank you. Let me go get some Chili's real quick. Anyway.
No, let me go to Chili's.
I assume that the show was going to go in a dark direction, but now I was legitimately scared. However, I was too curious to close the video, so I waited until the ad was over and let the video start again. When the video came back, it showed Ruby walking alone in another forest. She was talking to herself, saying that Yang couldn't hope to understand how she felt, because Summer was not her mother. She sighed and sat down sadly next to the large tree. She closed her eyes and tilted her head upward. Then, out the cut, a Beowulf jumps into the frame and lunges at Ruby. I will fully admit that I was startled by this jump scare. She pulls out Crescent Rose, because that's the only one I can pronounce, and swiftly cuts up the Grim. Okay, hold on. This is not okay. The Beowulf's bloody chunks are strewn around the forest. Excuse me.
They disappear.
They disappear into darkness. I think that you've got your fandoms mixed up. Then there is a rustling in the grass. It's a Pokemon! You better get that thing.
Get Pokédoll.
Pokemans. Ruby turns around to see Roman torture. Oh no. I think I see where this is going. Stepping out of the shadows, clapping. He congratulates her on the grim killing. Then he takes the scar out of his mouth and asks how her mother is doing. Then he takes his cigar out of his mouth and asks how her mother is doing. Ruby becomes justifiably furious and lunges at Torchwick with her scythe. He dodges all of the attacks. Then he pulls out a white surgical mask out of his pocket and puts it over his nose and mouth, all while still avoiding Ruby's swinging weapon because even in a creepypasta, Roman Torchwick is a G, okay? Then he pulls out a small gray orb and throws it at the ground. There's a small explosion and the area begins to fill with dark smoke, even though it was a gray orb. Ruby looks around and becomes dizzy and disoriented. Her eyes roll back, she drops Crescent Rose, and she falls unconscious on the ground, moaning softly. There's a fade to black. When the next scene faded in, it showed Ruby on the ground with her hands tied and her mouth gagged. She struggled, but she couldn't seem to move. Torchwick then approached her, bends down, and removes her skirt.
Hey folks, viewer mail time again. Oh, here's one from Sally, age 14. Dear Pig, aren't you interrupting the story at the most suspenseful part? Well, the answer is yes, Sally. Yes, I am. Keep those cards and letters coming.
I closed my eyes at this point, not wanting to view what was coming next. However, due to the noises, I had a pretty good idea. It was at this point that I knew this was not just a darker episode. This was something much more sinister, and basically anything you can find on Pornhub. I kept my eyes shut tight. That wasn't on there. That was my joke. I kept my eyes shut tight until I heard the scene end. When I opened my eyes, I saw Yang lying dead. What? What? Wait a minute, that came out of nowhere. Anyway, I saw Yang lying dead on the ground where she was fighting Cinder. Her face was burnt, and her purple eyes stared into the distance. There's a lot more blood on her head now. Oh, really? The scene then jump cut to Blake and Adam. Adam was cut, bruised, and bleeding. His weapons were gone. He was on all fours, looking up at Blake, who pointed her weapon at him. Dang. Beasted. Then he told her to show who she really was. Oh, fuck. Blake shot him in the head, and his blood went splattering across the ground. He fell over dead. Then Blake said aloud, "Oh, this is who I really am." Oh. She then put the weapon in her mouth and pulled the trigger. Her head splattered blood as well as she fell down next to Adam's corpse. The camera zoomed in on Blake's lifeless face, zooming in until the shot was nothing but the black of her hair. The next scene faded in, Ruby holding her torn clothing over her new body, limping through the woods. She continued on, panting the whole way until she reached Summer Rose's grave. The grave looked cleaned up, but there was a hole underneath the headstone, as if no one had filled it yet. Ruby fell on her hands and knees and crawled to the grave. She looked down. The camera showed an open coffin. Coffin with Weiss's dead body lying inside. Her face was covered with bumps and hives as she had an allergic reaction. Ruby started to cry and looked up at the sky. "Why?" she yelled as the camera zoomed away from her. As the shot expanded to show more scenery, it was revealed that the world of Remnant was in ruin. Oh shit. There was smoke and fire rising from the forest and mountains. Beacon was in the distance, also on fire. Crashing and smashing noises were heard. An earthquake erupted, cracking one of the mountains. Then everything faded to black. Only one piece of text appeared, in loving memory of Monty O. The Rooster Teeth outro played and the video ended. As soon as it was over, I exited the video. I was traumatized. What had become of this beloved show? I was so disturbed that I cleared my history, not wanting any reminders of what I had watched. However, the next day I got curious. I wanted to see what the comments were on the episode. I went to the Rooster Teeth channel. It wasn't there. Google, nothing. Browsing their website, nothing. My curiosity turned into an obsession. I had to find at least some evidence of the disturbing episodes. I searched YouTube, Google, Rooster Teeth, Bing, Yahoo, IMDb, whatever that is, Wikipedia. I found nothing. In the end, it was a hacker who uploaded it.
That makes sense.
Well, and that concludes today's Creepypasta reading. Thank you for joining.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.